all know that the intent of the power elite, meaning the Illuminati, the Skull and Bones, the secret societies that work in conjunction to bring down countries to what they want: communism, socialism, totalitarianism, fascism. Why? I mean, Marx proved that communism doesn't work anyway. So why would they
that's exactly why. The plan, which people really don't understand, is not to make us a communist or a socialist society. The plan is to make it that because they know it will fail. And when it fails, people will be destitute, they will be hungry, they will be miserable, and they will accept at that point anybody who says he's going to be their savior. You know, if you look at it from a Christian perspective, it's quite relevant to revelations, isn't it? I mean,
absolutely. I mean, that's the whole thing.
Yes.
I often say, is biblical prophecy being fulfilled naturally, or are the elite doing it deliberately so that we will fall into a trap?
Yeah, well, you know, in my estimation, and you know, I'm certainly not a biblical scholar, but in my estimation, when you read the last chapter in the Bible, you get a very good glimpse of what will take place. And when you look at how these people organize things, you know, the French Revolution, the Russian revolutions, the two worst bloodbaths in the history of the world, you know, we have to remember things. And unfortunately, people have very short memories. More people have been killed by their own governments than in any war in the history of this world. Stalin killed 66 million people. He was directly responsible for killing 66 million. Mao probably killed 100 million. Mm-hmm. In the French Revolution, when the populations were much smaller, there were certainly well over 1 million killed. So you see, all of this, when you think about it, all of these systems like a big jigsaw puzzle with little pieces that fit together. The environmentalists tell us we must reduce the population of the world to 1 billion. There's so many things pointing in that direction. You know, the birth rates in Western Europe and in America are at a negative level. We have these perpetual epidemics. We have AIDS, which was created in a government lab. And so, there's a movement afoot that's doing this. And I believe that this movement is the Illuminists, and that sooner or later, unless we all wake up, they're going to succeed in America. And I mean, it's a horrible thought. You know, this country was founded as a republic, and if people, just simply understood what the difference between a republic and a democracy is. In a republic, there is an established basis in law for government and interaction between people. And that basis of law in our republic was the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. In a democracy, law is based on majority rule. So if the majority decides euthanasia is fine, well, then it's fine. If the majority decides that it's okay to kill your wife, but only on Thursday morning, then you can kill your wife on Thursday morning. That's a horrible form of governance, absolutely awful. Yet our children in schools are perpetually taught that they live in a democracy. They do not live in a democracy, and this country was never intended to be a democracy.
It's a republic.
It's a republic. And now, today, it's an empire.
Right.
So and what happens to empires? They collapse. They always collapse. You could go back to Babylon, you can go to Rome, you can go to Greece. any empire that ever existed, the Mayan Empire, the Aztec Empire, the Toltec Empire, doesn't make any difference what continent, what place, the Chinese Empire, the Mongol Empire, every one of them collapsed. And our empire is going to collapse, and it's going to collapse sooner than later.
How soon, you think?
Not long. Not very long, because I think I just finished a new book called Money a Primer, and it just came out last week. And monetarily, we're totally bankrupt. We have the largest debt in world history. We have the largest debt in the world. Our banking industry is, how do you say that, kaput.
Yep.
That's the best word for it. And the Illuminists are running the entire banking operation. Nobody can dispute that, because all you have to do is go to the bonesman and see how many of them running which bank. You got Chase Manhattan, First Boston, Harriman Brothers banks. They're all run by the same group of people.
Okay, let's go back and look at this now. We're both in agreement of what is going on in the fact that we are becoming a socialistic, again, totalitarian, fascist, Fabianist, country. When they get us down to that level, I mean, we are just about there. And you say their purpose is to do that so that they can step in and then just totally consume our life. Well, are we already enslaved to them? I mean, how much more do they want us to be enslaved?
Listen. Let me tell you a story, Gianni. You'll love this. When I was a boy, I had an aunt, and this aunt was immensely wealthy. And after the war, I immigrated to America, and I was eventually drafted into the American military. And I was sent to Germany, and so when I went on leave, obviously I went to see my aunt in Switzerland, because she essentially kept me alive during the war. And Aunt Bertie was a wonderful woman. And she said to me, you don't have any clothes. All you have is these uniforms and these sports. This is no good. We're going shopping. So she took me down to Zurich to some of the best shops in town, bought me 2 suits and half a dozen shirts and all kinds of stuff, And now this is where people don't understand wealth. My aunt never in her life had a credit card. She never carried money. She didn't have to. When she went in the store, they said, "Hello, Mrs. Fisher." And she would say, "I'd like this, this, and this, and this. Send it to my house, and then you can send me a bill." And that was the end of the transaction. She'd walk out to her chauffeur-driven limo. Now, people don't understand this kind of a mindset, you see. And this is what you have to understand. When people become that wealthy, there is only one avenue left: power, or political power, or absolute power. And this is what these people want. They're all megalomaniacs. They want to control the world. And George Bush Sr. told us who they were in his speech. He said, the 1,000 points of light. Isn't it interesting that Bones has just about 1,000 members? Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, it's... I could not understand my aunt's methods of transaction until she explained it to me. And she said, look, she says, everybody knows who I am in Zurich. She said, I don't need any money. She said, if I go somewhere, they know who I am, and if I incur an expense, they'll send a bill. You see?
Mm-hmm.
Now, just imagine if you have that kind of wealth, what could you possibly want more? She had a chauffeur-driven, very fancy car. Her husband, my uncle, had 2 Ferraris. Isn't it difficult to understand that?
Well, I see what you're saying. They want power. They want. They have the money, but I guess what I'm asking is, they already have us in their clutches, and I don't know how.
Yes, they want to consolidate the control worldwide.
All right, so they do that, but they're already in control of the world. I mean, we know that they control the world. We know they control.
Yes, but it's unruly. They can't walk around and say, shoot that guy, I don't like him. You see, they want that power. That's what they want. And if you look at how they're going about it, they want to create a pyramidal society. And what they want to do is very simple. They want 2.5% of them running the entire world. So you got a pyramid, and on top you got a little tiny point, and that's the 2%. Underneath that comes about 8% of bureaucrats to run everything. And underneath that comes about 12% of police and military forces to enforce their power and to isolate them from the general public. And this is what they want. I mean, look, this is what George Orwell wrote about it in his book 1984.
Absolutely.
And this is what they want. They want absolute, total control. Nothing less, nothing more. And it's a very, very scary thing, and we really don't need it, period.
So what do we do, Adrian? What do you suggest?
Obviously there are many issues to that question. In my new book, Money, I have 2 chapters in which I talk about personal things and political things that we must change in order to prevent this. The political issue is the easier one to tackle than the monetary and social one, because we know how politicians behave, we know what makes them tick. We have in this country, more so than most anywhere else in the world, a political class. And this political class has a re-election rate of over 85%. They are professional politicians, and professional politicians are always indebted to the people who can ensure their re-election. In other words, the moneyed interests.
Right.
There's no question about this. Disraeli said this, in the 1800s, and he was absolutely right. And so what we have to do, we have to disenfranchise these people, and the only way to do that is with absolute term limits. Throw all the boogers out, every one of them.
And how did we do that? Because, look, we cannot go to the polls and win because they fixed the polls.
Well, not only did they do that, they fixed the elections.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So what recourse do we have? Do you think that we're going to be able to get, 600 million people, 300 and some million people in the United States out there, protesting and rioting?
No, I don't think that'll do any good.
No,
I don't. But just call out the police and beat the people up.
And so what do we do?
No, I think there are 2 routes to go here. We have the next presidential election coming up in about a year and a half, and we can do one of 2 things. Everybody vote for any party except the Republicans or Democrats, or else nobody votes at all. Nobody votes at all is a better case scenario, because then they are really in deep doo-doo. If nobody votes, or let's say 10% of the population is all that votes, the credence of anybody they put in power is zero. So I think, those are two scenarios that will work. Lonnie, I want to be perfectly straight with you and your listeners. It'll never happen.
Mm-hmm. You're right, it won't.
There are so many people in this country, and I talk to them every day, that are so brain dead on the issue of politics. It's absolutely frightening.